This week's episode of Couch Potatoes Unite! Is sponsored by Found Penny Studio. Found Penny Studio is exclusively fulfilling our Patreon Tier 3 merchandise perk by doing what they do best, creating to celebrate everyday moments like your favorite TV series. Check out Found Penny Studio's creations at foundpennystudio.com and find Couch Potatoes Unite on Patreon at www.patreon.com/couchpotatoesunite.
You say you want to watch a drama. You say you want to watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama. Or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler. So you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch Potatoes Unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because it's like our own little bat cave or bat family. It's on brand, that's what I'm saying. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panels and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the website or the podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Amazon Music, basically wherever you get your podcasts, to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Stranger Things, iZombie, The Good Place, Game of Thrones, American Horror Story, Grace and Frankie, Mr. Robot, Charmed, and Riverdale. Plus new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Altered Carbon, Doctor Who, Schitt's Creek, Westworld, Fuller House, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Will and Grace, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The 100, The Crown, Supernatural, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the MASH Retrospective Series panel will reminisce about Seasons 4 through 7, the Outlander panel will get caught up on Season 2, and the Star Trek 50 Plus series will talk Season 5 of The Next Generation. We'll be launching new panels covering the Breaking Bad universe, This Is Us, The Orville, Big Little Lies, The Good Doctor, Call the Midwife, The Animaniacs, Killing Eve, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll consider the moral implications and quick cancellation of Dollhouse. We'll travel through time and experience all sorts of identities with Quantum Leap. We'll thank the Golden Girls for being friends. We'll cry bazinga for Big Bang Theory, and we'll dive deep into the fantasy world of the magicians. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers, comedy shows, Comic-Cons, and game stores. Plus, we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, including in these semi-quarantine times. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to our website, our YouTube channel, our Apple iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Plus, brand new for 2021, you can subscribe to us via Patreon. In an effort to get fancier, to upgrade some of our stuff, to build some capacity, Couch Potatoes Unite is on Patreon to provide the opportunity to subscribe for perks, including member-exclusive email and Discord access, bonus content, TV-themed merch, and the ability to join CPU for occasional watch parties, and in so doing, possibly to place priority requests for shows that we cover. If any of this sounds like fun to you, head on over to Patreon or download the app and search for our name, Couch Potatoes Unite. Don't forget the exclamation point. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback, but just keep your batarangs and Wonderland gangs to yourself. Let's keep this feedback civil. Today, we're around the water cooler and continuing another of CPU's podcast series. This series does not have a fixed number of episodes like other series we do, Rather, it is ongoing and covers a number of shows that fall under one large umbrella, expanding into a quite popular universe of comic book adaptations. With that said, today's episode is episode 28 of our DCTU series, in which our DCTU expert panel discusses the DC television universe, i.e. television programs adapted from DC comic book properties that have morphed and expanded into one television universe. In this 28th episode of our DCTU podcast series, we talk the inaugural season 1 of Batwoman, newly added to the Arrowverse, aka the CW verse, in the 2019-2020 TV season. Season 1 aired from October 6, 2019 to May 17, 2020, with a total of 20 episodes, all on the CW. By way of plot summary, Batwoman is an American superhero television series developed by Caroline Dries. It is based on the DC Comics character Batwoman and shares continuity with other television series in the Arrowverse. In the series, 3 years after billionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne and his vigilante alter ego Batman disappeared, his cousin Kate Kane, played by Ruby Rose, sets out to overcome her demons and become a symbol of hope by protecting the streets of Gotham City as Batwoman. By way of history for this series, though, in May 2018, it was announced that the character of Batwoman would appear in Elseworlds, the Arrowverse Series 2018 crossover, with an announcement 2 months later that a series centered on the character was in development from Dries. In January 2019, the series received a pilot order from the CW and was picked up in May 2019. In October 2019, a full season of 22 episodes was ordered, but production on the first season ended early due to the COVID-19 pandemic, leaving the first season with only 20 episodes. Though the next event occurred after the season finale aired, in May 2020, Ruby Rose announced she would be leaving the series ahead of its second season. It was mutually decided between Rose, the studio, and the network for her to leave. The producers reaffirmed their commitment to the series in finding a new actress of the LGBTQ community to lead future seasons. No reason was given at the time for Rose's departure, but Rose later called being the lead of a series taxing and stated her back surgery following an on-set accident in 2019 was a contributing factor in deciding to leave, saying it was, quote, time for me to take a break to fully heal and then return to acting. The following month, a casting notice for a new character named Ryan Wilder was revealed, indicating the series was looking to replace the character of Kate Kane as Batwoman. Dries defended the decision to introduce a new character as Batwoman, asserting that the series would continue to respect everything that Ruby put into the Kate Kane character. She also revealed Kane would not be killed and her disappearance would be a key storyline during Season 2. Thereafter, in early July 2020, Javisha Leslie, a bisexual black woman, was cast as Ryan Wilder, the new Batwoman. At the time of our recording, Batwoman's second season has premiered, featuring the new Batwoman. Our panel will further reflect on this recasting tonight, and when we review the second season following its finale, we will not discuss the success of the season premiere with a new character just as yet. Today, in the 28th episode of our DCTU series, then, our DCTU panel, namely Kyle, Hillary, Spencer, Kristen, and Nick, returns to focus specifically upon Season 1 of Batwoman. As always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have watched all episodes of the first season of Batwoman and will without doubt discuss sensitive plot points from this and other past seasons of this TV multiverse. So for those of you who are not caught up on Batwoman or really any of the DCTU to date, listen at your own risk as there may be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Hey!
Hey, what's up?
Are you ready to discuss this show called Batwoman and all of its many things?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, let's get into it.
We'll be talking about it.
Well, there's a various level of excitement and engagement. So, of course, what I'm going to have to do is do the thing that we do with new shows, actually. I'm going to ask our DCTU panel to remind you who they are. Of course, 28 episodes in, you probably would know this. But what they're going to do is talk about what made them start watching Batwoman. I will rephrase this question. Were you forced to, like you felt you had to, or did you want to? Like, okay, you were interested, DCTU panel or not. Then, I'm going to ask you to rate your interest in Batwoman along the standard CPU character question, which changes with each show we do. And the character question for Batwoman Season 1 goes like this. Do you love this show and can't help but look up to Batwoman and the ideas behind her, as they are tantamount to a new spin on an old classic? She's a strong woman, a badass who provides hope and who gets you more interested in the heroes and villains on the show as well as around you. She's like everyone's crime-fighting sister. You so wish you could be her, related to her, or at least a part of her team, like Mary Hamilton. Do you really enjoy this show in most respects, but admit that your feelings are complicated by the fact that there is no great comic book or source development pertaining to Batwoman, and that you wish you saw more of Gotham's traditional Batman villains or creative new villains, as opposed to the crap you're seeing, although you do appreciate the complexity of the dynamic between Kate and Alice most, and wonder if it will or can be effectively resolved, like Kate Kane, aka Batwoman. Do you like this show because you particularly like the main character, either for sexy reasons or because she's like the symbol of hope in a city and or franchise that needed a little rejuvenation and fresh blood, even if it meant some growing pains and awkward or lackluster beats in its freshman season, like Sophie Moore? Do you like this show's lighter side, when it can take moments to laugh at itself and not be so serious? You also like some of the connections to the Bat properties and want to know about other characters that are not currently on the show, such as the whereabouts of Bruce Wayne and what really happened to Lucius Fox. But sometimes the character choices and what you're watching just don't make sense and or cause you to react with appalled confusion, like Luke Fox. You don't love everything about this show? You like the action decently enough, and the story surrounding the Kane family is probably the most compelling reason to watch it, but you'd be happy to do away with Batwoman altogether because you don't believe in vigilantes, only true superheroes, like the Crows, like Jacob Kane. Do you dislike this show because you feel like it causes you pain and or repeatedly wrongs you and or interferes with your quest or quests for vengeance too much for your liking, and you'd rather rely on quoting Alice in Wonderland than watch the show, no matter how much you can't let go of your affection for Kate or Batwoman, like Beth Kane, aka Alice? Or you had to stop watching the show due to all of the CW soap opera antics within the storyline and attributed to the characters. I mean, there's even murder by poison. Or you stopped watching because, spoiler, you died after being poisoned, like Catherine Hamilton Kane. Who would like to start?
I can go first for a change.
All right.
This is Spencer.
Hi, Spencer.
Hello.
Hello.
And I'm the token Brit on the panel.
Yes, of course. You're the token Brit on the panel. We don't need a token.
I would say that I fall towards Jacob Kane, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of all of that as we go through. There's some promise in the show, but there's also a lot of disastrous things going on in this show. And so that's where I fall. Now,
did you start watching it because you were forced to, or because you kind of wanted to, had some interest in it?
I kind of wanted to. I mean, the Bat universe in general has always been my favorite. So I was hoping to get a flavor of that, which is why I watched the first episode. Almost didn't make it to the second episode, but because of the panel, I continued to watch it. And yeah, we'll talk more about that as we get in.
All right. Welcome back, Spencer.
Thank you.
I think I can go next.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay.
I'm Nick.
Hi, Nick.
I started watching the show out of some just interest in what they were going to do with the character. I don't know if I would have watched it as soon as I did if it wasn't for the panel, so there's a little bit of had to, but there was some curiosity. There's also had to for the podcast, but had to because I was watching the other CW shows, and if you're going to throw this character around in crossovers and such, seems like you have to watch it. I think I would put myself in the Luke Fox. There's some skeptical things. There's some, just taking season one on its own, there's some hope that the show might be good, but if you take into account the character switch, which obviously we'll talk about, that really taints my look at season one, so I'll try to keep that separate.
All right, welcome back, Nick.
My name's Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
I am the moderator's brother-in-law, and my lovely wife Hillary will be talking next.
Lovely disclaimer.
So I would say the first two episodes, I was Jacob Kane. I was watching it for the action, and I was curious about the family drama and how they're going to weave that in. Then I got to the third episode about Tommy Elliott, and then I became Beth Kane, because
pissed.
this show caused me physical pain. I just can't even imagine getting a comic book character more wrong, which I'm going to get into once we actually go more into the details. But anyway, physical pain, one of my all-time favorite comic book characters. Ugh. Anyway, yes,
Kyle
hard to
has
watch.
passions if you've listened
The
to
show
past
lost me 3 episodes
he has
in.
passions.
And it couldn't come back from that.
Apart from so before you started the show, did you feel forced to watch it, or did you have some interest in it?
Well, like I said, like Jacob Kane, like I was interested in it for the action. I knew they had higher production values on this show out of all the Arrowverse shows, so I was kind of intrigued as to how it would look and feel. I knew they were putting a lot of work into it. So yeah, that's what I thought it would be like the earlier seasons of Arrow, where the fight scenes were amazing and it looked better. But yeah, it completely lost me by the 3rd episode.
All right, welcome back, Kyle, my brother-in-law.
Reiteration, awkward reiteration. All right, I am the lovely wife that he just talked about. Hey, I'm Hillary.
Hi, lovely wife. He just talked about Hillary.
Hi. So I'm going to say that I am also... Oh, I guess I'll just say that I did have some slight interest in watching the show at first. I'm kind of going to piggyback off of what Spencer said because the whole Batverse is very important in my life. But with it being Batwoman, I also didn't have a whole lot of high hopes because I kind of knew what I was getting into of all the characters in the Bat family. There's not a whole lot. She's kind of newish. There's not a whole lot to go off there. But I had some curiosity on how it was going to go, which is also kind of what Nick said too. But then, yeah, I mean, of course I was going to have to watch it because of this and all of this, and we talk about this. In terms of I'm going to say that I am also mostly Jacob Kane. I don't think there's a ton of compelling reasons to watch the show. I guess the family storyline is the most compelling reason, but still there are things about that
Won't even matter after this season.
Oh, okay, honey. Also, yeah, I think, but I also am going to throw in a little bit of Kate Kane's description just because of the part where there's not a lot of great comic book source development really going on there, and there really could be so much more that they're doing with villains in there that is simply not all the happier parts of the Kate Kane description, but like
all
that
the negatives.
Yeah, a little bit, just because again there's so much more that they could do with it. And we'll get into the reasons why, of course, but I just think that when you have that many episodes, I don't care that it's been cut a couple episodes shorter. They've had plenty of time to do a sensical, well-rounded story, and unfortunately, it's becoming a running theme in these CW shows that is just not a thing that happens much anymore. So I think I'm going to stick with those 2 descriptions.
Okay, welcome back, Hillary.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hello. So I, like everybody else, I started watching this show partially because of interest and partially because I was required to stay a part of this podcast. I really, I became intrigued when they first introduced Kate Kane in the previous year's crossover where she interacts with, our normal lovable superheroes. And I really liked what they did with the character. So I'm like, okay, I can get behind this show. But this will be good. A really good conversation we're about to have. So because of that, along the character question, this is a really hard one because I did not like the show when it first started. It took me about halfway through it to actually start to like it when things really started moving. So knowing that, I'm probably going to choose Luke. I like him as a character, number one, but I like the show's lighter side, but there are also some things that just make me react with appalled confusion. And I'm also going to go with Beth, aka Alice, as well, because I really did not like the show when it first started. It took me, like I said, quite a while to get into it. So it was never high on my watch list. And for that, I will be Luke and Alice for this one.
All right, welcome back, Kristen.
Thanks.
And of course, my name is Kylie. I both moderate and participate on our long-running and lovable DCTU series panel. I watch Batwoman because I made everybody else watch it, so that's how I look at this panel. I think I would say that I'm Luke Fox. I kind of wrote that description with myself in mind. Also, I do enjoy that character. I think everybody's kind of hit on the feelings that I've had. This one's a roller coaster. It starts off pretty poorly, and I was not into it at first. And when they developed the Alice part of the storyline with Kate Kane, that's really what kept me watching and interested. And I thought, okay, there's potential here. And then I did not finish the season by the time Ruby Rose announced her departure, and so by the time I was done with the first season, I was like, well, so much for that. So I had other feelings at the end, and they were not positive. I'm going to average it out to Luke, because there are parts that I like, and I do enjoy the lighter side. I don't love all of the characters. We'll talk about that in a second, but some of them grew on me after a minute. So it's got a lot of problems. But we're going to talk about what those are, and if we think the show can successfully surmount this main character recast will be the second topic. So before we get too far down, it's now, because it's a first look at a show, we have to do the star rating scale. So if the character question is not meaningful to you, longtime listener, we always like to do the star rating scale, or the star business, as Hillary calls it. What I'm going to ask the panel to do is go, quote-unquote, around the water cooler and rate the show overall. You can rate it at whatever point you feel is applicable in your watch of the first season, but this is how this goes. Is it 5 stars? Holy smokes, this is the greatest superhero vigilante action show of all time. It's just the most surprising Batman-related thing, although it's not Batman, that you've ever seen. You love it, 5 stars. Is it 4 stars? It certainly seems intriguing. You're going to keep watching, but you see possible pitfalls in the premise. Is it 3 stars? You're going to give it one more try when season 2 comes around. There are things you like, things you don't. You're going to see which things are allowed to flourish. Is it 2 stars? You only watched part of it, or you watched it begrudgingly because chances are you're mainly bored, but there's some intrigue or fascination that holds it together no matter how unlikely, and you just can't convince yourself what you like or if you even care. Finally, is it 1 star? Pass on this one, guys. It's a snoozer. It's not funny. It's not interesting. It's not your cup of tea. There are far too many options, superhero or otherwise, on TV to enjoy. Apart from Batwoman, this one is 1 star. Who would like to start the stars? Oh, don't all jump in at once.
I will go first. I'll jump in.
Okay.
I would say, for me, 2.5. Based on your descriptions is how I'm going to rank it. I would like to give it a little bit less, just because I know of the character switch, and I don't see how the show is going to be able to keep that intrigue that I really was starting to like at the end of season 1 with the family and the Alice storyline. That is all meaningless now without Kate as the lead. So, 2.5, and we'll see what happens next season, but I'm not optimistic.
I'll go next, because that's basically exactly what I'm thinking. 2.5, because of everything Kristen just said.
I'm going to say 2. I'm going to say a solid 2, but I still want to steal a little bit from the 1-star rating, saying that there is still so much at this point, because all things nerdy and comic booky are they've become so popular and mainstream that there is there's so many better options out there, so they better pull some crap together, because otherwise, it's probably not going to work out. And really, comic book fans are kind of harshy judgy in that stuff, and it's going to be hard with me and Kyle included, so it will be hard to keep the interest there going forward. But I'm going to stick with a solid 2 for right now.
And as my wife said, comic book fans are harsh and judgy, so in that regard, I'm giving it 1 star. Because not since Jared Leto Joker or Batman and Robin Bane has a Batman villain been so disrespected and unwatchable. Oh my god. It's so offensive to comic book fans.
It is really true. If you're going to have these shows, and I think we've already touched on this before, but for real, and we'll get into this more, you're obviously gearing towards an audience. You might want to try actually gearing it towards that audience. It's just a thought, but...
the show has 2 actual Batman villains, and it messes up both of them, and then it completely misunderstands everything about the coolest one that they think they're introducing, which we'll get into. And believe me, I'm going to have a rant about it. But yeah,
you
1 star.
You kind of already did.
We believe you.
You should make... Hasn't that already been a hashtag before? Kyle's...
Hashtag Kyle's rant. That's fine. We'll do it later just for you, Kyle. Spencer, what was your star rating?
All right, so Hillary gave it a solid number 2. I think of it more as a runny number 2.
I don't know what that means.
He's making it a poo reference.
After the first episode, I was like, this is the worst comic book adaptation I have ever seen. It actually got better. If I hadn't had to continue watching after the first episode, I probably wouldn't. I found it cartoonish, childlike, and none of that in a good way. So I really didn't like it after the first episode. It did get better, but as Kyle said, it had named Batman villains, but in name only, and that really trashed the whole thing overall. And then, of course, with Ruby Rose quitting and basically condemning this thing to the garbage heap probably after season 2.
Like, for real, going off your cartoon analogy, like, watch Batman the Animated Series. It is a cartoon, and yet put together in, like, a so much better way.
Okay, hold on. Yeah. I still have to give my star rating.
Oh, sorry.
But I feel there will be much talk, so I will now add my star rating, which is also a 2.5 stars. What? Lower than Black Lightning? Well, see, the reason is because I didn't know anything about Black Lightning, so I was hopeful and thought of potential. This one I actually know stuff about. So when I sat down to watch it, and I just thought everything was clunky from the get-go. How she discovers the Bat Cave and the Bat Suit and Bruce's identity. How she decides to take on that mantle just because her cousin did, I guess. How, we're introduced to, Hush is a problem, and Kyle will rant about it, but really all of the criminals have all the villains that they bring into the show have major problems, and I'm not talking about in terms of their psychotic problems, but their story continuity problems, whether it comes from the Batman universe, comic source, other sources, doesn't matter, or just in terms of telling their story. I feel like we're walking a little bit back into a Gotham problem, and we keep using Gotham as a comparator, but that really was the problem. Are you getting the essence of things? I liked the Kate and Alice dynamic. I truly believe that is the only thing that sold me in the end, and that's why it gets a 0.5 star. But in terms of 2.5 being, there are things between things I like and things I don't. There are far more things I don't like than things I like. And I'm less bored than mainly bored, but I'm still kind of bored half the time. So that's where I would land as 2.5 stars. So this is starting out good. Okay, let's talk about Batwoman.
I would just like to pause for reference that you actually gave a fractional star.
I do sometimes. Usually it's in the 3.5 place, because I don't like to get too positive unless I really love it. But this one I felt like there's just no way around 2.5. It's
You meant to say 2 1/3 stars.
No, because I don't want to hate my own fractions. I average these on our little rich text. There's an average.
I'm going to revise mine to 1.89.
No, I'm just going by your 2. Your running 2 is fine. We will keep that
high.
No, you only get 1. So let's talk about Batwoman Season 1. We've hinted, we've foreshadowed. We have things. I want to give a minute before Kyle launches straight in. What is it that... Let's start with, I'll use my arrow tactics. What, if anything, did you like about this show?
I actually did like her costume design, I'll say that.
The production design, the Batcave is awesome. The city looks amazing. It looks way better than any of the other Vancouver cities used in the Arrowverse.
They actually did some live action in Chicago for this one.
Yeah, this one feels real, and it feels like, continuity-wise, with other ways Gotham has been depicted, it feels like Gotham. So I applaud them on that. But yeah, anything with other characters is bad. But production design is amazing. It's top-notch.
Well, I don't know if I'd say top-notch, but it's better than some of the other crap.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I thought that stylistically, the show was successful in the way that the characters looked. The costuming was very good. The backdrops felt very Gotham-like. That's about where the good stops.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm going to also agree with that. I love the production design. I love the overall visual aesthetic of the show. For me, I didn't know that they had shot some stuff in Chicago before I looked it up, but it was mostly to confirm the fact that when they made some jump cuts around the city, oh, that's clearly Chicago. okay, that's not Chicago. Some of it took me out a second because it was so recognizably Chicago that I had a hard time getting into that disbelief where, oh, okay, this is Gotham. It's just an amalgamation. But that'd be the only nitpicky thing about the production is that some of the shots were too obvious.
It is crazy that, I don't know, the Chris Nolan movies, it's hard to tell that that's Chicago as somebody who was born and raised there, but I mean, I was nostalgic. It was nice to see some of those buildings. But they didn't do too good of a job hiding it, but I also love the idea that Chicago just is Gotham, so that's fine.
You love that idea? Gotham, man, is rough.
Chicago ain't great.
Crime stats out of Chicago for 2020?
Yeah, I think it works. I mean, the politics
you're probably right.
back. What? Never mind.
Don't offend the Chicago listeners.
But Nick is born and raised Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, the mob has a rich history there and corrupt politicians. I think it fits.
It knows its history.
Yep.
C, the production value's good. Anything else you liked?
This conversation is like when you see a friend's bad play. The lighting was good.
It's true.
You got lighting last time.
That's from Friends. Or my favorite, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to say it because then my code will be broken. I don't use lighting because that's obvious, but the thing I do say is probably not much better. I'm not going to say it though. So Batwoman, yes.
Mine is always, oh, it looks like you were really enjoying yourself.
That's not,
That is legit. That's good.
that's not too far different from what I say. It's did you have fun? It looks like you were having fun.
You were sure having a good time, weren't you?
Right?
Is that when you
Okay.
say when the audience isn't having a good time, it looks like you were having a good time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. Okay, anyway, we'll have to think about this just in case. But okay, so production values. Yeah, I'd agree with that. The production values were very good. The costume design was good. The action sequences were pretty good. They have a pretty good, I mean, I think she did some of them, but even if she didn't, she has a good stunt double who does a pretty good job. So it looks dangerous for whatever might have happened to her. So that's true. I see I'm not going to get much farther, so let's talk about what you don't. Yes?
I
Grasshopper
got more
Krista.
that I like. I like the evolution of Mary's character.
I agree with that. She's actually, I did not like Mary at first. I could not stand her. I
Not like
thought,
her.
oh my God, why did they cast? What is the purpose? But then actually she had hidden depths that kept getting better and improving and evolving over the course of the season.
Mm-hmm.
She probably had the best character evolution, actually.
I think so, yeah. So that would be the other thing that I like. I liked Mary's arc.
I will say that the acting improved as the season went on.
Yeah.
I mean, that first episode, the acting was so bad. The chemistry between the characters was non-existent. And I really thought, I didn't think it was going to make it through the whole first season before it got cancelled. But it did improve on the acting level. Luke was probably one of the high spots.
Yes.
But, I mean, I'm searching for good things to say at this point.
Yeah.
I would still say the acting was very soap opera-like to me.
Also
But it
massively...
improved as the season went on.
It was also massively inconsistent. One of the characters that I don't like, now I admit I'm not in the target maybe for the relationship at the center of the show or the love triangle of the show, but I just thought Sophie was super wooden.
She was annoying.
She was a drag every time she was on the I just thought
couldn't stand her.
I cannot get into her. I have no sympathy for her. They ham-fisted, corked in her coming out with her mom, which might have been okay, except they hadn't done any development for her up until the point. She
And
wasn't...
it's already been done on other CW shows, so it's just getting repetitive. Like other DC shows, it's getting repetitive.
And she might have been more interesting if they'd actually brought in Julia Pennyworth earlier, because I thought Julia was kind of sassy and made her at least marginally more interesting as long as they were in the same scene together. But that didn't happen until the back half of the season, so by that time I couldn't care less about Sophie and did not see what Kate saw in her by the end.
And here's my problem with the DC universe and them doing that. These relationships in real life exist in a very natural and loving, wonderful way.
Yeah.
And in every single DCTU show I have seen, it is forced, it is completely lacking in chemistry. They seem to fail every single time that they push it. And I don't know why it fails so badly on the television when we all know many people that have these relationships that are full of chemistry and wonderful, and it just never seems to play out in these DC shows.
Well, for this one, I think they were actually trying for the representational cast. That's why they got Batwoman. She is a lesbian in the comics. Yep. But to even get to the point of, like, having a relationship outside of your superhero vigilante crime-fighting persona is something... I'll back up what Hillary says. They've done it on every single Arrowverse show. When they do it here, when they start Kate on the road to Batwoman, she's not even remotely with Sophie. Like, Sophie is a distant memory. She kind of screwed her over outside of military school. So here, yes, you're right. It was very, very forced. Like, that didn't even seem natural that, oh, you came back into my life and... yeah, you were really cool back then, but now you're working for my dad, who, by the way, kicked me out of that thing, the Crows, and so I'm going to do the whole thing with... that whole thing was just totally like...
Well, like I said, I mean, going into it, we already know about, like, Kate Kane, like, we already know that that's, you know, that she's representative of that, and it's to add more of the diversity, and that's fine, but, like, again, generationally, I mean, I'm just going to say it this way, it's probably more likely that younger generations are probably going to tune into this show. And you don't need to ham-fist that stuff to them. They're already growing up in this environment. They're already exposed to this relationships. The LGBTQ plus that's not a big deal to us. Like, it's not. Like, we're fine with it. So I guess, I mean, it's good that they're trying to represent other people, but they're not doing it in a way that's actually, like Spencer's saying, it's not actually serving the overall purpose that they're trying to force anyway, so why even do it? You already have her there. It starts off with her relationships. She already has another romantic interest within the first couple episodes. You don't need to keep trying to force crap. It's silly. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I would have preferred almost seeing anybody but Sophie in a potential romantic relationship with Kate. I liked when she was the bartender that she
exactly. That's what I was going to point out too.
You know, I think they had great chemistry. I would have been fine with her getting together with Julia because I love Julia Pennyworth. I liked their chemistry back and forth, and she's just brought some real life to that character. I would have been fine seeing Kate have a flavor of the week or a flavor of multiple weeks, like short arcs. You know, I don't think the storyline with Sophie added anything besides some good background in the flashbacks. Then I could have just been done. They could have just been
it's just a plot device.
Yeah, like she was saying, like her interaction with that bartender felt real. Like she met a cute girl at this event and she asked her out on a date, and it just felt so much more real world instead of trying to cram this huge whole dramatic soap opera backstory.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, it's not working. You know, she's like, oh, there's parts about me I can't tell you. Like, all that's normal. That's what.
And then Reagan happening to be Magpie's sister. That was interesting. Like, there are lots of different ways they could have played around with that in terms of the short arcs or the flavors of the week or whatever. But yes, totally agreed. Sophie, every time she was on the screen, and I'm sure she's a very nice lady, but I was just very, very like, oh my gosh, why is she back? And that was 1/3 of the show to 1/2 of the show. If not for Sophie, I think the show would have been at least 20% better. So, not accounting for its other, issues, but that was my rant. So I said rant. Shall we do hashtag Kyle's rant? Go!
I mean, this is the 3rd episode, and that's about the point we're at now. So, in the 3rd episode, we get Tommy Elliott, one of my all-time favorite Batman villains, who is a relatively new villain and hasn't gotten as much exposure in the spin-offs. But in the comic books, he's huge. He's brilliant. He is literally like an evil version of Batman. He has the physical prowess, but more importantly, he's a genius. And he based his entire persona off Thomas Wayne. So he's a brilliant surgeon that everyone loves. He's a philanthropist. Everyone in Gotham looks up to him. They see him as the person who stepped in to pick up the Wayne's mantle when Bruce became an irresponsible playboy. So everybody loves him. And they don't know that he's secretly a sociopath that absolutely hates Bruce Wayne in every way possible. And the show made him into a very whiny real estate agent who essentially starts off like blackmailing with a gun and just like this petty criminal. And in the comics, he's this mastermind behind so much for years of Bruce's life. And as smart as Batman is, he never sees it until Hush chooses to step out and reveal himself. Like, he's behind so much in Batman's life. He's this, he outthinks the Riddler. He tricks the Riddler. He beats the Joker nearly to death. I mean, Hush is an amazing comic book character. And first you have the horrible real estate agent whiny version of him. And then throughout the season, you get weak henchman Hush, where he's just playing second fiddle to Alice, which comic book Hush would never do. And then they use this thick latex mask for his bandages and this tiny coat, so he looks like a bobblehead in every scene he's in. He completely loses all air of menace. And it's like, I feel like they were really proud of the way they made him look, because they really hyped it up in press and stuff. But when you actually see him on set moving around with this huge bobbleheaded mask, it's just so ridiculous. It's just so frustrating, especially because, like, on Doom Patrol, there's another character that wears bandages, but he's so well done, and he looks more like Hush than Hush does in this. But yeah, once they got that character wrong, I guarantee you every single comic book fan, because every Batman fan that reads the comics loves Hush. He's like the Venom of the DC universe. Like, he's a newer character, but everybody absolutely loves him.
That's a really good equivalent.
And to get Hush wrong in his first real like big debut is like the biggest mistake they ever could have made.
To people who are really, again, you have a target audience, so they're gonna have feelings.
And if you're gonna hype this character like they did, it clearly was for the people who knew that it existed.
And when you hype a character, the character needs to have strength and needs to have a purpose beyond being a henchman. It was very frustrating.
Yeah, they're just trying to hype based off of name alone. They think if they put in some sort of, even if it's a weak, it's really hard for me not to swear, even though it's a really weak reference, they think that that's going to be enough to make people happy, and it's not. Again, the content that's available in the genre now is like off the charts. And everybody's trying to get a piece of that action because it's so big. So you can't keep playing these games, essentially. No one's saying it has to be a perfect adaptation. I don't think it does need to. I'm willing to suspend some disbelief. We are talking about comic book characters anyway, but dear Lord.
If you're going to partner Alice with a big Batman villain, who sometimes is a henchman, why would you not just use Mad Hatter? It makes no sense.
You're like yelling, yo.
I'm sorry. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. I love that character so much.
Do you want one of my White Claws?
And
I'm talking about emasculation.
Here's the thing. This is the second time we've been burned because the writers on Gotham kept saying that they were going to introduce Hush.
Well,
they kept saying, next season Tommy Elliott's going to show up.
Because they messed up so many of the villains, too.
And so, I kept waiting on Gotham for Hush, and we never got him. So then there's even more build-up, thinking that, okay, DC's finally going to do Hush. And then to get him so wrong on literally every single level you could get a character wrong.
So I just wanted to say that it's all writing, because when they said that Gabriel Mann was going to play Tommy Elliott, he was on Revenge. He played Nolan. He was a great character. He basically played the genius mastermind behind all of the revenge stuff on that show. So I thought, that's a really good choice. But in terms of how it was executed, it's completely, entirely script writing. There really is no way around it. It's script writing.
For want of a better phrase, the writers shit the bed with it.
Pretty much. And
was it a solid or run? Never.
I forgot. He
loves the poop metaphor.
I mean, I'll roll with it. I just let it roll.
You could keep going off of that one too.
I know. I forgot what the second thing was that I had my finger on because the White Claw disrupted it. All I'm thinking of is White Claw.
Well, I'll agree with Kyle that Hush is more comedic with his look. Like, we did say the production value was good, but I don't know if they run out of money or something.
Well,
because his head looks huge.
I just want to know what special effects guy created that and was looked in a mirror and was like, yeah, I'm proud that that's going to be on TV.
Well, and then Batwoman herself, I mean, really, off an artist page, in real life, her whole getup could look really silly, but I actually thought they did a really good job of doing...
I just don't understand the red hair, because in the comics, the character has long red hair, so it makes sense to have that. But the red wig they chose for her, I can't take seriously.
When did it get hot and stuff while you're fighting?
She went to Disney World and bought it.
I think it was to make her more feminine was the writing choice in the story, because before she was not wearing any hair, she was just wearing a more fitting, more tailored version of Bruce's.
Yeah, she was basically wearing like a copy Batman cowl at first. And so she was trying to
everybody thought she was Batman, so
she was trying to set herself apart and make herself still look.
I'm just saying, I think they could have made it look better. I don't like the color. The color looks bad.
I'm just saying, as far as the CW goes, that's like, sorry CW, you're stupid.
The other thing, I remember the other thing. You mentioned, why wouldn't they just use the Mad Hatter with respect to Alice and the Wonderland Gang? And I'm with you there. I thought that more than once. I came around on it only because of how they set up Alice's character and her backstory, with Alice in Wonderland being basically her only friend other than the young tortured boy who would later become Mouse. So, but it did make me wonder how they could even remotely sort of resolve that continuity flaw, because she was basically quoting the text and occasionally rhyming herself, which is kind of how Mad Hatter operates most of the time.
And that's pretty much all they did was, that's pretty much his backstory too, is like he had no friends except for books, and then his obsession with that book, when his mind snaps, he can't pull himself out of it. But I just feel like you could have paired him with her, like they could have been like kindred spirits finding each other or something, Alice to his Mad Hatter, and it would have worked and still been a lesser known Batman villain that they could have fleshed him out and gave him this, Wonderland Gang. It would have made so much more sense storytelling wise.
The other thing I kept wondering about, so in the Elseworlds crossover, when Kara and Oliver and Barry all encounter Kate in Gotham City, in the Elseworlds Gotham City, she's already been Batwoman and been doing the thing, and we even get this protracted fight in Arkham Asylum, and you get to see, the different cells with the major villains, not the Joker, but pretty much everybody else, as part of the Easter eggs that you see. But we start this series and this season as she's becoming the hero, when we've already assumed she is the hero as of Elseworlds. Then Crisis on Infinite Earths happens, we get the collapse, and by the end of the season, she's met Kara, apparently for the second time. So the timing on this has not been established. I know this is unsurprising to some of you, but it is one of my major criticisms. Like, what is this? What are we doing here with her character and how she fits in the overall? Earth Prime or not? Like, I just don't understand where this is all fitting together.
I don't think they do either, if I'm being honest with you. They just kind of, like I said, they just kind of throw some stuff together and they're like, oh, this is good, I don't think that there's really... I think we're giving them too much credit. I don't think that they're really putting that full, rounded thought process into it. Like other,
they really don't. Like, if you're going back to the crossover...
comic book on-screen world.
If you're going back to the crossover, like, one of the villains they fight is Mr. Freeze's wife as a villain. If his wife is alive, then there is no Mr. Freeze. Right. Sorry. It all goes with my hush rant about getting villains wrong and completely misunderstanding.
It's just so that they can make a reference, but they don't...
And have it be a girl version of that villain.
Yes, but they don't even know themselves what they're doing.
They could have rectified all of that within the pilot episode. If they really wanted to tell this is her becoming the hero, it could have been done through, like, quick flashbacks, like 4 months ago, 6 months ago. And then it could have shown a quick blip of, like, the Elseworlds crossover, and then boom, we're in present day. Like, that's all they needed to do to retcon the crossover with their story arc for the whole series.
Well, yeah, because Kylie said it when she was talking about, I still, just the fact that she just decides, oh, I'm just gonna be Batwoman. What? Bruce is Batman? Oh. Okay, well, I'm going to be Batwoman. Like, that's basically the first episode. It's really ridiculous. The character development that's happening is just, it's not there. It's ridiculous.
I actually think the character development is worse on this show than it is on Black Lightning. At least with Black Lightning, you have some forward trajectory of the characters. Here, there almost is none. It's like, it drops you in, it expects you to suspend disbelief on their very shallow choices. I mean, one of the most compelling reasons that people gravitate toward Batman, and Batman, his character arc, is all because it starts with the trauma of his parents being murdered. She does not have that trauma. And even if she wanted to somehow take on and make it, she's kind of taking Batgirl's story, but misappropriating it a little bit. And it even seems even worse because at least Barbara grew up in the shadow of her father's job and his interactions with Batman, and this doesn't, Kate Kane is completely so removed that she doesn't even really see Batman, and she's blaming Batman for possibly losing her mom and her sister in the car accident because he shows up to save them, but he can't do it. So it's like, I don't understand. It seems like...
Which already is stupid.
Right. Even if you just take that part out of it and don't assume it's all stupid.
Sorry. I'm not.
It's just the jump forward in the story. Like, how do you get in your brain from, I'm blaming Batman, I find out my cousin is Batman, to I want to be just like Batman. They did not fulfill that thought process. So
this leads to one of my biggest problems with this show, is that these characters, both Alice and Batwoman, consistently make ridiculously poor choices.
Yes!
The way through, and they don't learn from them. It blows my mind that they're both still alive by the end of season.
Which, again, basically is saying that there is no character development then. They're just spinning, and then we're being forced to watch it like we're... Again, I don't know, not sure what audience they are trying to actually write this show for. Maybe it is just younger people that they don't think are able to catch on to it, or maybe, I don't know. But it's a cycle.
One of the choices is when she kills Mouse's dad, August.
Yeah.
That's a dramatic departure. I mean, probably every Bat character grapples with that idea, but she grappled with it really quick and actually executed it. So then it was like, okay. I mean, she wrestles with the guilt of it, not for very long, but it just seems to undercut what exactly are you doing with this character? Or what exactly are you doing with your choices to be this vigilante? It doesn't make any sense.
I just had a really hard time at all getting connected to Kate Kane in general. I thought her more intriguing, again, when we first saw her on the other shows. And that's the problem. If you need people to get invested, even if the stories are weaker, you still need people to, at the very least, get some sort of investment happening with the characters, I feel. At least that's what drives a lot of watching things for me. It's just that attachment to characters. And if that's not happening for me, then I still watch it because we're talking about it, but I ultimately don't care.
So what was the other villain that I know Hush was deeply in your brain, but...
In the comics, she's a very popular Teen Titans villain called the Joker's daughter. They used her as a really crappy one-off villain where she's cutting off influencers' faces. Dula Dent. In the comics, she's Joker's daughter. She is Harvey Dent's daughter. But she has, much like him, split personality. She's schizophrenic, and her split personality thinks she's the daughter of the Joker and is always looking for her father's approval. And she's actually a fun villain, and she's a good counter act. She's very similar to Harley Quinn mixed with Two-Face. She's like if you took Batman's two biggest villains and combined them into this really crazy girl. And she has a huge history in the comics. I mean, she's been around since like the 70s. There's so many stories you could pull from her, and she actually would be a good foil for Batwoman if you want her to face off against another female villain. But you get none of this. You get just the name Dula Dent for a one-off villain. And it blows my mind when you have so many other villains that don't exist in the comics, like Mouse and Alice. And to use a comic book character and just use their name and then have her face completely cut off by the end of it, and like you're never going to use her again. It's baffling. It's literally baffling. I mean, that would be like if Arrow had done that with Deathstroke and used him as one episode villain. Like, you can't.
It's a lot of wasted opportunity. That's the short version.
Especially like if you're dealing in this world of Batman, to have somebody who is, I think in the show she's Harvey Dent's niece or something. But it's like if you're gonna have this world where Batman's been around for a while, it would make sense to have Harvey Dent's crazy daughter around. Why wouldn't you use that?
I feel like this feels longer, like Batman's been away longer than the 3 years that they're saying.
Well, especially since like we know he was already Batman when her mom went over the bridge when she was, I don't know the age, but she was a smaller child, and he was already Batman and well known at that point.
She was like 12 or 13, so it's a good, 15 years before.
Yeah, I don't remember how they referred to Dula Dent, and it's not in the notes, but that makes me sad, what you're telling me. So, I mean, Hush was already kind of sad, but that makes me sad, too, because, yeah.
Well, so see, that's what we're saying. When you're seeing these things and you're watching it in real time from this different perspective already, where you're already knowing of these really weak references out there, it makes these kinds of things, when you're already a fan of the genre, it makes it really hard to watch. Because there is all this missed opportunity, and they're just not making an effort. They're just throwing that stuff in. And maybe there's some rules, again, from the studio for that. I have no idea, but like Warner Brothers. I don't know.
And just like in terms of this world, it doesn't make any sense that there's no Robins around to help.
That's what I kept thinking.
Where are all the Robins?
Where are the Robins? Where's
There are four Robins. You're going to say that they all left Gotham 3 years earlier, too?
If Batwoman is there, where the frick is the rest of the
Batgirl?
The Bat family is well established by the time Batwoman's around.
That was my number one question. Okay, Batman's disappeared, but where the hell is Robin, a.k.a. Nightwing, a.k.a. whomever?
Right.
So.
Don't get me wrong. I mean,
Pros and not enough Robins.
The real reason probably, obviously, is that they're using all 3 Robins on Teen Titans. But those shows are doing them very well. But if you're going to have the sandbox and you're going to insist on playing in Gotham, you have to address the fact that these characters are out there.
That they exist, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in Gotham, and we didn't really even get any Joker, Penguin, Riddler, any of the established Batman villains apparently have all gone on vacation.
Well, maybe they really don't like Chicago.
No,
like it's so much farther.
Like Bruce Wayne's missing. Dick Grayson should be heir to his fortune and his company. He should be there running Wayne Enterprises.
That's my number one question. Question.
Yeah, they don't even if they're not, they can still reference it. That's what I'm saying. Instead, they're making these other weak references that aren't even right. It just makes it pretty much unwatchable. Even if, the story sort of kind of starts to get better. But for me, sort of kind of getting better in the second half is not enough to keep my heart fully in it. That's just me, though.
I mean, also it contradicts what was established in Supergirl when Clark would reference his scary friend in Gotham. Like he was still operating like a year ago before the show takes place.
They make that same reference in the season finale of Batwoman. The kryptonite that Luke destroys is Bruce's kryptonite, Bruce's kryptonite for Superman. Luke destroys that, but then Kate produces kryptonite that she says Kara gave her from behind the picture frame.
So I'm just going to assume that Bruce is hanging out with Clark all the time and then ghosting everybody in Gotham.
Must be.
That's the only thing that makes sense. Because like the way Clark talks about Bruce, it's like they just saw each other.
There's no continuity. It makes no sense.
Batman's having a barbecue at the Fortress of Solitude.
Okay.
With Clark.
That's gonna be really well. Maybe not. He's got his laser eyes. Maybe
were all the references to Superman's scary friend in Gotham? Was that before the Infinite Earths crossover where everything condensed?
It was before, yeah.
Okay, so that.
But you also have even Ollie before everything crossed over and the world's changed was like Batman's been missing for years. He's a rumor.
Well, and before in the Elseworlds crossover, granted, we saw it in the Elseworlds place. Batwoman is part of Earth 1. It's Oliver and Barry's Earth where Batwoman's Gotham City is. So then there's this reference to the scary friend, but Superman that we know is Earth 38.
Yeah.
With
this whole thing is messed up. Like
And they think we're not paying attention?
This is definitely not Marvel Studios.
Well, especially like in the Arrowverse when they're like, in the first call, they're like, oh, Batman's just a rumor. Green Arrow was first. But then the show starts out and everybody in Gotham loves Batman and they miss him and he's very much obviously not a rumor.
And it just goes to show you can't even blame it on not having, like, even again on the Marvel side of it, they haven't been able to reference and talk about a lot of important aspects even from that inception where that started, and they still were able to piece together large puzzles and some of the more obscure puzzle pieces to make that more cohesive. And I know that this is on a smaller scale, it is the CW, but again, we're suspending disbelief, but there is very little detail actually.
Looking in the DCTU at this point is an overarching creative director.
Yes.
They've got nobody who is kind of looking over the entire picture saying, okay, look, you've got to make these connections. They have to be smart. They have to be, if you're going to connect all of these shows, then you actually have to connect them by more than just a crossover once a year.
I mean, like, look how many Batman villains the first couple seasons of Arrow used that they could have just brought the actors back. Like the Clock King from the first two seasons of Arrowverse, who was a really good actor, played him, and he was really cool. Like, I would have liked to see him in Gotham actually being the Clock King.
I totally forgot all about that.
There were quite a few Batman, more obscure Batman villains on Arrow. And none of them died, so...
Yeah.
No, but that's what I'm just saying, like, even my heart already moved on from Arrow, just because that didn't land well either, so, I don't know.
When this universe started with Arrow, it was definitely someone who knew the universe, who cared about the universe, was trying to give an accurate representation of the comic books. And I feel like he's gotten his fingers into so many pies inside and outside of the DCTU that it's completely lost any hope of redemption at this point.
I mean, I still like The Flash, but as far as Legends, but as far as the new shows are really struggling, and I'm a little afraid for Superman and Lois, I gotta say.
I'm really not even excited for that anymore.
Like, seriously, like, if you went into this show wanting Batman mythos, the only thing I can do is tell you to watch the Titans show on HBO Max. I mean, it's everything you wanted from this show. The entire second season, it has an older Bruce Wayne in it. It has all the Bat family in it. It has the Gotham you want to see. Like, there's this other show currently on that's doing all the things so much better that this show is trying to hook people on, but tricking them. Like, I couldn't recommend this show. I would just tell people to watch Titans. It will literally give you everything you want to see.
I mean, honestly, I don't think it is tricking anybody. I was looking at even today as, well, the new episode of season 2 just premiered, and there are not a lot of people who are psyched about it. They're just like, we don't even see the point. And, you know, the last season was real rough anyway. So, yeah, like Spencer's saying, it's kind of crazy that it hasn't already been canceled.
So
frankly.
That is an excellent segue.
Whoa.
So let's talk about it. The recasting. The big controversy. Nick fainted, apparently, in the Zoom window. It was comical.
Was it news to you?
No, it's just so... I don't know what the right thing for them to do would be. I don't know if I would have been happier if they recast Kate Kane. I feel like they have to start completely over. Because it looks like we're going to have all of Kate Kane's family members and those relationships still, like...
It's nonsensical. The chances of Ruby Rose ever working in television again have got to be extremely slim.
Oh, no. I mean, that's like the number one rule. You sign all those clauses, and you're literally anchoring an entire series, a huge budgeted series.
They're literally going to say, that's that chick that up and left that show. We're not going to hire you.
And she didn't make any money off the show because she broke her contract so hard. She had to give, everything back.
The only chance she has is if, I don't know, she's minimizing how... It sounds like her injury was bad when it happened, and maybe it's much worse, and there's just some weirdness about how she's talking about it.
The fact that she forfeited all the money from her contract and didn't file a lawsuit for the injury tells me that that's just an excuse.
Oh, it's an excuse. There was an article of one of the guys that co-created the show, and apparently no one was happy with her wooden performance, as they called it. They said she was being outshined by supporting cast members. So they were already thinking of getting rid of her, and then apparently she's difficult to work with because she doesn't like the long hours. So at the time she left, they were trying to say, that she couldn't
Which
handle the long
that's always
hours.
funny to me too. Like if you're, hey, I mean, I'm not an actor, but if you're going to sign up for any sort of like, especially the vigilante characters, you're going to be working all night long, dude. Like I don't know what you're thinking. I mean,
put it this way: like when we met Tom Welling and he was talking about Smallville's schedule, he slept on the sets because it's the lead of the show. It was easier than driving 2 hours back to his house and then having to sleep for 3 or 4 hours and then going back. Like when
you're filming, you're basically living. Like Stephen Amell said that we got to see Stephen Amell and meet him. That's basically what he said. Like, yeah, the schedule is grueling. You don't get to see your family a lot when you're in the middle of filming the season.
You live in your trailer on set for the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you combine the fact that she was not prepared for those hours, and then apparently she's difficult to work with, and she wasn't giving the performance they thought she would, it's just recipe for disaster.
Well, and I just gotta say that as an avid TV watcher, as I think we all can agree, it is a rare situation when a TV show can survive a main character recast. And
especially after one season.
Especially after only one
And
season.
not just a main character, a title character.
Right.
It's not like it's an ensemble.
The only time I can really think that a show had any kind of longevity after a recast of such a big proportion was Charmed. But that's because it was already an ensemble, and they didn't ignore the idea of the Shannon Doherty sister. Spoiler if you haven't seen Charmed. But I know, 20 years later. But they did end up making her, spoiler, death, a major part of the storyline for the rest of the show, and that's how that one was able to work. Take another recent example, 2.5 Men. Now, poor Charlie Sheen, or whatever, but he was not on the show, and they recast him, or they put a different character in there, again, somehow related to the 1.5 Men currently left, and it was played by Ashton Kutcher, but that show lasted like one more season, and it died. You can go back through that 70s show, granted, long life, it was in its last season when it happened.
Doesn't matter. People don't like it, like you said.
Nope.
There's so many examples of it. We could just keep going down.
The last season of Scrubs.
JD, like, nobody wants to watch Scrubs without JD.
But then,
like,
it's even easier on those shows, though, too, because those plots, and it failed miserably, because those plots weren't completely dependent on one family's drama.
Right.
Sitcom with other characters.
Yeah, this show literally built its entire first season on the Kane family dynamic. Everything connects to that. Her stepsister, her dad, like literally every plot point is her and her sister.
Like Kristen said that when we were talking about
the Batman.
Yeah, like Kristen said that. She was like, I mean, that story's a wash because they built it up.
Yeah, like I would have much preferred that they would have just recast.
Because that was before I watched it, so I didn't know what she was talking about, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Kristen, what were you saying?
I was going to say, why, knowing that they built this whole arc around the Kane family and the dynamic between Alice/Beth and Kate, why didn't they just recast the character? Then everything could have continued for better or for worse with someone who didn't have such a wooden performance and maybe was easier to work with. You know, having somebody, a brand new character come in, and now it's this mystery of like, Kate's gone missing. I haven't watched the premiere yet. I'm waiting until after we're done with this podcast, but I don't see how that's gonna work.
It won't. I mean, it'll be like in Smallville when like they kept hinting at Lex Luthor, even though they couldn't get Michael Rosenbaum back, where like they show him from behind a bald head and all these other awkward workarounds. So it's like they shouldn't even have addressed the Kate Kane's missing mystery, because it's like there's no adequate way to it, because they're never going to have Ruby Rose back.
No, I don't think they would want to have Ruby Rose back.
The first episode is called What Happened to Kate Kane?
They're so stupid.
So you could literally have Luke in Kate's office reading a copy of Variety with that on the front page.
Right, that would be meta and kind of clever, but no, that's not going to happen.
These writers can't do that.
I mean, just in the first episode, they should have just had Barry run into the past and mess something up, and then Kate Kane just looks differently because Barry messed something up again.
Right?
Flashpoint!
And if you thought Kate Kane deciding to be Batwoman was quick, this new character is just
shows up and steals the suit.
Yeah.
A suit and no training. And
Yeah, I mean, from what I've read, she's like living in her van, probably down by the river. You know, and she stumbled across the plane crash that Kate was supposed to.
R.I.P. Chris Farley.
Yeah, I mean, she finds the bag with the Batwoman suit in it after a plane crashes, and that's what starts the whole. But where's Kate?
Is that really the best? Is that seriously the best?
Apparently, just owning a bat suit is qualification enough to fight crime in Gotham.
What, Spencer? What did you say?
This is Zoom. You can't talk all over each other. Spencer.
The new Batwoman is literally a hobo that finds the bat suit.
Yes.
What the absolute bleep.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if, like, Christopher Nolan did that in the third Batman movie? Like, just some homeless person finds Batman's suit and that's how it goes?
I couldn't it be like...
I mean, I know that they were having a difficult problem, but a hobo finding the bat suit.
And it's going to be a hobo that magically knows every form of martial arts.
And you know, is the exact same body size and shape as Kate Kane.
I mean, dear Lord. I just went on my rant about in the Flash because even the Flash has started to waver, in my opinion, from what it once was. I mean, Kyle, after we did the Flash podcast, we went back and started to rewatch season 1, and we're like, holy crap, this isn't even in the same show. But again, Batman's universe and the Flash's universe are so rich with characters and stories and so many things you can draw from. There is absolutely no excuse in my mind. There's no excuse. You can pick the more obscure things and build things off. There is no excuse for this quality of television that I am being asked to watch for this podcast.
I mean, even if they had the top, 10 or 12 Batman villains listed as off limits, you could
There's
pick up...
still a crap ton more.
There is literally, 70 years of characters. Even ones with 2 comic book arcs, which by the way is more arcs than the villains in Black Lightning have.
There's 3 digits worth of Batman villains.
Yeah, I mean there's so many Batman villains that are on the table, and this is what we're getting.
Her sister is such. That actress is so ridiculous. I'm sorry. Maybe you're a nice lady too. What's her sister's name again?
Beth is the character Alice, or Rachel Scarston is who plays her. Rachel Scarston, I believe, was in Birds of Prey.
I know we kind of talked about her, but seriously, in the first few episodes, she's literally the girl version of the twirling the mustache thing.
In the first couple of episodes, she was absolutely terrible. I did find her better by the end of the season. But now you're presented with the problem with Kate dying or disappearing or whatever. Where is the investment for the new Batwoman with the rest of the universe or the rest of what's been left behind? There's no conflict for the new Batwoman to take up. She doesn't. Why would she care?
That's my question. Why would she care?
Yeah, I guess we'll find out if Alice even notices that it's a different.
Seriously, she's probably just gonna care just because, I mean, that's their CD anyway, that's their character development anyway. Kate has disappeared, so I guess it's my turn.
It does almost sound like they're making Alice a co-lead. From what I read of here's the general arc of this first episode, it sounds like she gonna have this whole storyline in addition to what happened to Kate. There's also something else on her end too, where it's going to be split screen time.
No bueno.
See, I don't...
Stubborn writers, though, to not just jettison what's not going to work. If you're going to start with a new Batwoman, give her a whole new conflict and why she's doing it, and...
But also,
we're going to watch it.
Why did they create this brand new character of Ryan Wilder, who has no... I mean, I'm not a comic book reader, so there's that.
She doesn't exist in the comics.
But yeah, she doesn't exist. So why didn't they bring in an already established Batgirl or Batwoman? I would have loved to see Barbara Gordon come in, or
this has been my number one complaint the entire time we've had Batwoman.
Even if you're going to use your Batwoman, there's Cassandra Cain.
Yeah. There's other ones. There's not just Barbara Gordon. There's a whole bunch of chicks. There's a whole bunch of... Yeah, I'm just saying.
At the very least...
This was me and Kyle saying from the beginning that them even choosing to do Kate Kane is just...
Random?
It's just lame. They're just again, they just are assuming that people are just gonna enjoy it, I think, because of references, but...
another thing they could have done, we've already been introduced to Julia Pennyworth. Why didn't they just promote her to series regular, have her take up the mantle? At least It's someone that we've met who's somewhat involved with the family.
She's a spy. She has training.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from a writer's point of view, that makes a million times more sense than a hobo finding a suit.
That's
Yep.
okay. That's the hashtag for the episode. Hobo finds a suit.
Well, and her backstory is she was imprisoned for a crime she didn't commit. But it's like, wouldn't that just make her hate cops and lawyers? Like, is she going to Batman cops and lawyers?
Well, I mean, like Kristen is, the bottom line is she's even saying that I'm not even knowledgeable about it, but I can at least come up with some basic,
something that makes
cohesive
sense.
storylines that make sense even without the knowledge
Of this universe like you guys have. Other movies, that's where I get my Batman knowledge from.
I just wanted to interject.
Apparently that's more than these writers have. Apparently they've never even heard of Batman. They're just throwing darts at a board.
I just wanted to interject that I didn't mind Rachel Scarston. I'm with Spencer. She started off poorly. She
Agreed.
got better, but that's, again, she got better around the dynamic of the sisters. She had nuance and depth as opposed to being some random psycho who was
I just
trying-
already, sorry.
who was just
It was,
trying to
hard,
be the
it was
thing.
hard for me to end up caring at that point.
So, we'll go through some of the $1 million questions. Do you think Batwoman will survive after season 2?
No.
I think the whole DC or the CW universe is on a downward slide. I mean, they just announced that the crossover with Batwoman is canceled. So if that's the first thing canceled, the next thing canceled is Batwoman itself.
But to be fair, with the crossovers this year with all the COVID filming restrictions, if someone is on a different set and gets exposed to COVID, that could shut down 2 shows and further delay production.
I think that's an excuse, though. I just don't think they want to put the money into it.
I just think they're moving towards, there is that. I do think that there's probably some paperwork in there that means that they can have these shows a certain amount of time. But I do believe a lot of the DC property is moving towards HBO, and we've already talked about that. And they probably, like I said, there's some paperwork out there saying CW can do these characters for a certain amount of time, but then ultimately they won't be able to, kind of like Netflix with those Marvel characters, because they're going to be moving on to greener pastures. But frankly, at this point, I really want them to in this scenario. Please let them move on to greener pastures, because they're just not being serviced the way that they should be.
This universe is collapsing upon itself.
And I have been watching it from its inception. Me and Kyle have been watching these shows since the very first Arrow episode that aired on TV in real time. And I am saying it is time for it to move on. I'm sorry, but it's not what it used to be. Not even close.
I think it's going that way too. I mean, I basically have been saying that in this round every episode we've done, but I would say in addition to, as far as that crossover, I mean, it might be that they're just canceling it because of the predetermined expectation that Batwoman will go down. I also I think the crossover they had planned was Kate Kane's crossover with Kara. So why the hell would what's-her-name, who's now Batwoman, crossover and go to national...
with Superman and Lois.
That too, though.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think they have faith in that Superman and Lois show with all the behind-the-scenes drama. And so I think they're like, okay, these are 2 shows that are like going to crash and burn, and we're planning to do this expensive crossover on these 2 shows we don't have faith in. What's the point?
How could you have faith in a Superman show that really is very little to do with Superman? I'm hearing what they're doing, and I'm extremely disappointed in any chance of it being good.
Yep.
That's like doing a Batman show without Batman.
Well, he's in it. Okay. Superman is
he's in it, but the whole premise is completely separated from what makes
Exactly
Superman
like Black Lightning's premise.
Yeah, it's like if you mix Black Lightning...
sons instead of daughters.
If you mix Black Lightning with Dawson's Creek, that's what the Superman show is.
Don't knock Dawson's Creek.
I'm not knocking it. I'm calling this a knockoff of Dawson's Creek. I'm saying Dawson's Creek is the higher quality version of what we're going to get.
Can I take us back 1 second?
Sure.
If Kate Kane has gone missing, and that's what the writers chose instead of killing her off or recasting, why the heck aren't her super friends looking for her? Like Supergirl and the Flash just don't care?
Yeah, why are they dicks all of a sudden?
I have no answer to this question. Well, I guess we'll just have to grudge watch and see.
Grudge watch indeed.
Where is Spencer? It's like his Gotham backdrop is there, but he's not there.
Batman got it.
Oh my god! If only we were recording
Monty
that.
Python skit all of a sudden.
Oh.
Okay, so this show, we'll do the normal questions that come with a first look. You've already talked about how Batwoman compares to pretty much all the other shows, superhero, DC, everything. The show was created by Caroline Dries. This is her first creator credit. She has basically written for the CW, Smallville, Arrow, the new Melrose Place, not the old one, and the Vampire Diaries. Those are all CW shows. Would you watch anything else she creates? Kristen will say no.
I'm saying no just because of how poor some of their choices are.
Fair enough. Thank you for answering the question.
I would say just watch Smallville and not... Wait, what was the other one she did? Oh, she did Arrow for a bit? Yeah, just watch Smallville.
Was she creative on the others, or was she just a staff writer?
She was a staff writer for all of those shows.
After this mess, she should not be allowed to have complete creative control over anything ever again in her life.
I agree. That's what I feel.
So much so, she should be allowed to produce children.
Yeah.
Not by herself. This is not a good TV. She didn't, and it may not be entirely her fault because of the not having the showrunner, the sort of the Kevin Feige equivalent of the CW's DC shows. But even apart from that, it was just a mess in the pilot. I'm super surprised, and I think they only ordered it to series because they were trying to fill out some stuff, not actually giving much regard for how quality the pilot was.
Yeah, it's something that the show got ordered based on the pilot.
Yeah, I don't even understand that. There are better. Black Lightning's pilot was better than this one. I'm sorry, that's how I feel.
No, I agree with you.
It, but I just feel this pilot was lousy. So I know the answer to are you going to keep watching? The answer is yes, because you're forcing me to. Okay, the next question is, you have to answer this just because we're showing our responsibility toward loyal viewers. And Kyle already hinted at it earlier. Would you recommend Batwoman to others? Why or why not? It's the why not I'm looking for.
I would recommend it to the prison system for torture usage.
Wow. Is that worse than a dumpster fire?
The thing is I'm only going to recommend shows like these to my actual nerdy friends because I know my non-nerdy friends are probably not going to tune in to an obscure Batman character anyway. So I can't recommend this to my nerdy friends who are already into this stuff. Like, honestly, if like you guys weren't a part of this group and you said, hey, are you watching Batwoman? Should I watch it? I'd be like, nah. Probably not.
Like I said earlier, if you're the target audience of this, just watch Titans. You get to see Jorah Mormont as a very scary Batman, and it's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And not to mention you get the whole Bat family without any of these restrictions or weird family plots. So I can't recommend this at all when there's already a much better Gotham show.
I'm also going to say no.
What?
I know, right? Just because the first half of the first season is so bad. My brother-in-law was kind of watching it along with me in not really real time, but on like a couple delayed days basis. And he stopped watching it pretty early on. And once it got better, I tried to like say, hey, like you might like it now.
And he's like, no.
Like I could not convince him to pick it back up because the first part was so bad. So I am trusting my awesome brother-in-law Shannon, and I'm saying no, I do not recommend it.
Shout out to Shannon, the winner of our Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover prize.
I think he's this panel's biggest fan. So
woohoo! We love you, Shannon. Nick?
Maybe if season 2 is amazing somehow and this all makes sense, I could, but in this moment, I can't tell anyone to watch any of this stuff.
I like how Nick tries to be so positive and then just gives up. I don't recommend it either. I take the Batverse, Bat family very seriously. It's my favorite one, other than Superman. Other people feel the same way. It may be real cliche, and I don't care. And this just doesn't scratch that itch for me at all. It's too much of a mess. And I always want to believe, but this one didn't earn it.
No, she's not a Fox Mulder.
I am more of a Mulder than you give me credit for. I like to think I'm in the middle, but either way, here, it's not... The fact of the matter is Batwoman took a a bell curve's progression in terms of how it went. Started off poorly, got better in the middle, but I would argue it didn't sustain that by the end. Maybe if Kate and Ruby Rose were still there, we could say, oh, there's a bit of a positive trajectory, but she's not, and we know that now. And so at this point, we are literally starting from zero and having to rebuild, and we're at the bottom of the curve again. So we're watching it because it's part of our universe, and we're covering this universe, and that's what we do, but I would be really surprised if this show garnered any kind of good rating. And I'm going to be watching it over the course of the next few weeks to see what the demos come in at, because I'd be shocked if this was better than last season. And if it is, I'd want to know why. I'd be intrigued and curious to see what possibly they could have done to turn it around. Because
I didn't even know that it aired last night until you guys said something at the beginning of this.
I didn't know either, except for I follow a bunch of comic book related news sites, and they said it.
I follow the TV stuff because I do, and a lot of them said, the premiere answered, "What happened to Kate Kane?" which I didn't realize was the episode title until it was said by Nick. So.
I just did a quick Google search on the initial rating since we're about 24 hours out from when it premiered. It dropped 80% in views.
Oh! Goodbye.
I could have
Cancelled.
taken bets.
Yep. A 0.1 rating. Only 663,000 viewers tuned in.
That's worse than Black Lightning, by the way.
Yeah, they're done.
You have to realize that people aren't really watching TV right now. Everyone's dining out. They're going to movies.
Nobody's staying home and quiet.
Oh my gosh, Nick, that was great.
That was darkly
more
sarcastic.
chance of reviving Ben Franklin or Abe Lincoln than this show.
What? What did you just say?
I said there's more chance of reviving Ben Franklin or Abe Lincoln than this show.
Yep.
That's very historically minded metaphor, Spencer.
That is so funny.
Wow. Well, alrighty. Batwoman's not long for the future. We'll see what happens. I don't think they'll yank it mid-season because it's a second season, so they're probably going to let them air the full season, such as it is. But that's not
They
good.
could find a COVID protocol reason for cancellation.
They could. I'd still be shocked if it was a mid. I mean, I think they'll give them the full season, but that'll be it.
I think CW's hurting to keep their schedule full.
Yeah.
Amongst all the COVID stuff, so.
They have big
Penn
ensembles.
and Teller's Fool Us is on CW, and they did a season with the COVID protocols, and they said, do you want to do another one right now? So they're doing twice the number of episodes for them.
Well, they're losing other shows, too. I mean, again, Supernatural, and I mean, that's what their flagship show at this juncture, and that just ended, so...
I was just saying, I don't think they're picking up any of these backdoor pilots that they were hoping from both Supernatural and the Arrowverse.
Supernatural's franchise is done. It's done for now. They might revive it later, but it's done for now. And I don't think they're backdoor piloting.
They're
The Green Arrow and the Canaries was not picked up, and I do not think that any other backdoor pilots.
Good.
Nope.
Stop beating dead horses. Jeez.
And then Mark Pedowitz, the head of the CW, said they would have picked up Swamp Thing because they had such strong numbers, but they don't have the budget to rebuild the swamps. The sets and everything, like, it was a very expensive set, and now the CW doesn't have the budgets for that kind of show.
Oh, I wish they did.
Yeah, me too, but I'm still hopeful for HBO Max.
Did you... Oh, wait, Kristen, did you watch it?
Zach and I watched the whole thing, and we liked it. I mean, we also made fun of it because of how we kept watching it on CW. They had to cut it for time, but one of the things that we were really making fun of was how they overtly, like, bleeped out the bad language, like a huge, like, fuzzy bar over the person's mouth. It was bad. So
I mean, it's a very R-rated show. I'm amazed they even could get it in any form to air on the CW anyway.
But we really liked it, and I would have loved to see a season 2. It was, like, just getting really...
I know, the last episode with Alec talking to Swamp Thing, oh my god.
Spoilers, but loved it, yes.
Okay, oops.
I loved it.
Anyways, Batwoman's bad.
The end.
Yeah, we hate it. Bye.
And good luck, Ruby Rose, because you're going to have a hard career.
Yeah, not a good career move for her.
Well, the problem is, like, she came out strong on Orange is the New Black, and everyone thought she was just going to be amazing in everything she was in. And they banked so hard on her, and they banked poorly.
I mean, she was good in Orange, but that was only for like half a season that she was on.
It wasn't very intensive work for her.
And that was all daylight work. We can verify that.
Yeah, no night shoots.
Nope.
She'll be an Instagram influencer, and that's it.
I mean, put it this way, too. Like, apparently, because she was in that really...
People still have to want to watch you for that, too.
She was in that really bad giant shark movie, The Meg. And apparently she was so bad in that movie, they edited it almost off. She's only in the background because they edited her character almost completely out of the movie because apparently she was terrible.
I was going to say, you saw that movie.
I did see that movie, and she's just in the background. Like, I completely forgot she was in it. They literally took her character out.
I've never heard of that movie, but she does have a modeling
Giant shark movie. You're not going to watch that.
You're right. You are right. There is a series of modeling
Jason
contracts that she
beats
has.
a shark in a fist fight.
Wins.
And it's better than Batwoman.
Yes.
I was just going to say she probably will still be a model. Even because she had modeling contracts prior to TV. But that's it.
She has something to fall back on, so she won't be broke. Good for her.
She better not fall back. She hurt her back.
Okay, before this devolves into the anti-Ruby Rosathon, what I'd like to say and ask you, is there anything else that you haven't already said, or any closing metaphors and similes you'd like to lob related to Batwoman Season 1 or the scary Batwoman Season 2?
No, wrap it up. I want to go watch last night's episode of The Rookie.
That's an
His priorities, and his priorities are Nathan Fillion.
That should always be a priority.
Girl, I'm with you.
Captain Mel. Well, if there is nothing else to say about Batwoman Season 1, and apparently more to say about The Rookie, what I'd like to do is thank Hillary and Kyle and Nick and Kristen and Spencer for joining me to talk about Batwoman Season 1, such as it was, and because we talked about the first season of Batwoman, it's time to roll those credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation Point was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kels Rezmer. Kels played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole shebang was engineered by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us, give us stars, provide comments, or review us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Amazon are just a few of the places you can find us, but we're also on YouTube. We have our website, and we're now on Patreon at patreon.com/CouchPotatoesUnite. If you really love us, pledge your support by becoming one of our United Couch Potatoes as we grow our little sofa-populated corner of the world. Otherwise, feel free to tell us how we're doing, what we should add, subtract, keep, or toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions for shows we might consider, contact us at our website where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, our Facebook, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, our Patreon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Though, of course, we have new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time, and always have new episodes coming down the pipe. Just listen to our intros. If you miss old episodes or want to know in general what shows we cover, just search for us. Find us wherever you do searchable things on the internet. Don't forget that exclamation point, or contact us via our website, our email, our social media accounts, and our Patreon to stay up on all the new events and episodes by our humble little podcast, Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point. Until the next time, Batwoman is available in its entirety only on HBO Max, an interesting new direction for Warner Media that no doubt prognosticates upon the future of streaming Warner Brothers properties, a future, by the way, that does not include Netflix, but that's a different talk for another time. In the meantime, our DCTU panel will next reconvene very shortly, in fact, to discuss Season 5, the now penultimate season of Supergirl. So until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned!
Goodbye!
Bye.